Welcome to Open Up and Say Ha. Stories from underneath the paper gown. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Allie. It's always so good to see your face.
It's good to see you too. I like how we're in tank tops of different colors. I'm on the light side, you're on the dark side.
I'm
arms.
Well, I'm arming because I'm pitting out a little bit, so I'm just like,
Yeah, me too. It's sweaty. I have the air on, but I'm sweating.
I'm a little sweaty. Yeah.
That's what happens.
I'm really excited about our guests today.
Me too, but I'm also excited to tell you this dumbass thing I did this week.
Yeah, I have one for you too, and I'm excited to hear yours. So you go first. You go first, Ellie.
All right, it's so stupid.
I can't wait.
Remember, listeners, I bought Julia this avocado tool because I have this avocado tool that I randomly inherited from God knows where. It's not a thing that you need, but it's a thing that's delightful to use. It helps you remove the pit very seamlessly. You can slice it up very seamlessly. I was being lazy the other day and I was very exhausted and just like not being mindful and not paying attention. And so I decided to use the old method of removing an avocado pit where you sort of like stab a knife into the center of it, twist and pull. But I was, as I said, not being mindful and I stabbed, but not hard enough. So the knife slipped and I sliced it into my middle finger, the pointer part of my middle finger. So I immediately like pull the knife out, put it down, shout for my family to like get me a Band-Aid, apply all the pressure, put the Neosporin, do all the things you're supposed to do, and then proceed with like making my salad. Like I was fine. It wasn't that bad. I didn't need stitches. That's not the point.
Good.
This was a particular night where, you know, we all kind of ate our own thing. I don't know. My son ate leftovers. My husband ate something else, and I was having a salad. And as we're all sitting and eating our various things, my husband says, "Did you wash that knife before you cut the rest of your vegetables for your salad?" And I looked at him and I said, no, I did not. And like, to be fair, there wasn't blood on, it did go inside my finger, but there wasn't like a bloodbath on the knife. And I wasn't feeding it to anybody else, but it did make him question everything I've ever fed him or served him. And like I mean, he cooks sometimes, I cook sometimes. It's not like I'm serving my man.
I'm the cook.
I do prepare the meals on most of I work from home. I'm here, right? So he's just looking at me sideways, like, how many times, bitch, have you stuck like an implement into your body and then proceeded to use it on my food? But yeah, I have a nice little, it just looks like a paper cut now. It's fine. But I don't clean knives after I stab myself is what I just really wasn't paying attention.
Fair.
I just was like, I was tired. My mind was somewhere else. I don't know. I think you know what I had done? I had chaperoned a goddamn 5th grade field trip that day.
God damn it.
I challenge anyone.
Graders,
I challenge anyone to properly cut an avocado after chaperoning a 5th grade field trip.
Yeah.
What's yours?
So I teach Pilates and I had a private client. And there's one of the places I work has, it actually doesn't matter. Like if you've ever touched a spring on a reformer or any kind of like, Pilates equipment, they have these springs and the tips of the springs are not even the tips of the springs, but they have like a clip at the end that you can clip things on. You can clip like handles and all sorts of things. And for some reason, sometimes the little like piece that you push down to open the clip gets kind of like sharp and pointy. I don't know why this is. And I don't know if this has happened to anyone else, but this has happened to me multiple times. And it actually happened to one of my students. So I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. But sometimes I just like, it slices my finger open and I don't know why. And I get almost like a little paper cut is what it looks like.
Yeah.
So cut to, I've got this private client. He's brand new. I've never met him before. So I'm trying to there's a few things going on here, right? Like I'm trying to do all the right things for his body. I'm trying to do what he needs, but I'm also like trying to be myself because I want this person to keep booking me and keep coming back, you know? So there's a little bit of selling it. And then I'm also like doing right by him and doing all the good things. So I get him on the reformer. I had just unclipped a spring and put it away. And he's sitting with his legs straight. It doesn't matter how. I'm not going to describe the position because it's irrelevant. So, and I go to like do a correction and I go to touch his leg and I just smear blood from like the knee, like to the top of his thigh. And I was just like, oh my God. And then I'm like, is it your blood? Is it my blood? Whose blood is this? Whose blood is this? You know?
No.
and I realized it's mine. And luckily he wasn't skeeved. I'm so grateful that he was like totally cool about it. And, you know, I went and got alcohol wipes and like wiped him down, wiped myself down, got a Band-Aid on, continued with the session, got through it, and like made it through without anything too crazy happening. But, and he actually booked me again and did come back. However, it was really embarrassing. And yeah, so watch out for those clips, man. If
Holy
you're in
shit.
Pilates. I know, it's crazy. Crazy.
But you got it on his skin, not on his clothing.
On his,
Yeah?
well, I got a little bit on his clothing and I was like,
You did
just put
both.
peroxide on that and it'll come out.
Yeah.
But I mean, like smeared
Oh, God.
on his skin. It was
Like a
so
crime
nasty.
scene.
Like a crime scene. Yeah. It's really gross.
That's, well, good for you for booking him again. I mean, you must be, you're that
Sure.
good. That's really, this
Sure.
is an advertisement for you.
For
She's that
my-
good, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
She
That's
might
right.
bleed on you, but you'll be back.
But you'll be back. You'll
There
be
you
back.
go. Tagline. We have a tagline.
Tagline. I may bleed on you, but
Um,
you'll be back. Yeah.
So I'm so excited for today's pod because they're our friends.
They're
Tell
our
everybody
friends.
who we have.
Oh, they're our very dear friends. So we've got Bradley Michaud and Jason Moyer, who are our first married couple, which I think is like cool. We've never had like married folks on
Yeah.
before. And our first duo, right?
I think so. Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
yeah,
We've
yeah.
had a trio. We've not had a duo.
Now we've got a duo. Well, so Jason Moyer is a very dear friend of ours from college. So
Yeah.
kind of like Ellie and I have known each other forever. Jason, we've known Jason that long as well. And let's see. So Jason Moyer, in a previous life, Jason was a wildly unsuccessful actor and writer. He decided a few years ago to give up the hustle and change his life. He now works as a medical esthetician for a dermatologist in Brentwood, California. He spends his free time with his hubby watching Dodger games and Bridgerton. So that's Jason's bio. That's who Jason is. And he's one of my favorite people. I'm very excited to have him. And
Love
Bradley.
him dearly and
Yeah.
love his husband. Bradley
Yes.
is a legal administrator in Los Angeles who spent 20 years as a professional dancer. And Bradley is and was an amazing dancer. So, you know, for those of you watching on YouTube, you'll get to see a little bit of his bod, just a little bit of it. His post dancer bod. Well, he's got nice arms.
He does.
Yeah.
And good tattoos.
All the things.
All the
they,
things.
They both have all
They
good
both-
things.
All good things. Yeah.
So check out their parts if you're watching, and if not, just listen and imagine.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that weird?
Yes, but let's proceed.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome
all
to
wave loudly.
yeah, open up and say
Ah.
ha.
It's so good to see you both. You're very
Yeah.
gorgeous as usual.
Yeah.
Aw, you're too
Listeners, if
sweet.
you're not watching on YouTube, they're very gorgeous as usual.
Mhm.
We
As
like
usual.
to start every episode by asking a question. Julia, would you like to ask this question of these gentlemen?
I do. So let's
Just
start with
folk.
Jason. What?
Okay.
What'd you say?
I
Ellie?
said these gentle folk.
Oh, gentle folk.
Gentle
yeah, I like it.
folk.
Gentle
I felt
folk.
like being folksy. So I said gentle folk,
I like it.
emphasizing the L.
I could hear
Folk.
it. Wow.
I'm going to stop, please.
Yeah, please.
Take
I'm
over.
gonna ask this question. Okay.
I'm in no place.
Wow. Jason, what if you had to describe the kind of patient that you are, like, what type of patient are you?
Well, this will go back to the story I'm going to tell in a second, but I've never had any real medical issues in my life that couldn't be solved with like a doctor's visit and a pill.
Mhm.
Other than a kidney stone, but that was no big deal. Like I just went to the doctor, it was fine. But so I don't know what kind of like intense patient I would be, but if I'm at home sick, I'm the worst patient in the world, and you can ask my husband about that.
I
Mm,
agree.
mhm.
I will confirm. He is the
Here we go.
worst.
Maybe,
And
yeah,
by,
maybe
but
that's
describe,
because
describe
well,
it,
it's
like,
maybe it's because I've never had like a major medical issue
uh-huh.
that like the inconvenience of being sick to me is like the world's going to end. I can't do anything. I won't move off the couch. My husband has to do literally everything for me, like go to the store when I ask him. I'm just like in a sour mood. Don't talk to me. Just put on the Netflix and leave me alone to rot.
So you don't have the perspective that like a near-death experience gives someone. You are operating from a baseline of any sickness could be a near-death experience to you, and you treat
Yeah,
it
exactly.
as such. I get
Yeah.
it. Sure. Big
Yeah.
baby.
A big
I'm a
baby.
big
He's a
baby.
big baby. He's a big fucking baby.
That's right.
Bradley, what kind of patient are you?
I am the opposite. I am a joy to be with when I'm ill. Um, but if it's a hospital situation, I am taking lots of notes. I'm
Hmm.
very prepared. I'm asking lots of detailed questions, coming up with a plan of action, doing my own independent research. I'm a big nerd, so I apply that in all areas of my life, including, life-threatening emergencies.
You are your own advocate.
Correct.
Which is
Yes.
excellent.
Excellent. We like to hear it.
Unless,
Jason's
I
a
will say,
baby. You're an advocate. Got it.
unless I am so near death, I can't advocate for myself, in which case,
Jason's the
I'm
advocate.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's also say, like, in the time that we've been together in 14 years, that's happened twice. So
Which is a lot.
That
It
is
is
a
a
lot.
lot.
I almost died twice.
Yeah.
Oy.
These are great stories that we can't wait to hear. We're going to start with Jason and the story. Let's see. The title of Jason's story today is "This Ain't It."
Like I was saying, I've never had any real major medical issues. So we're going to start when I had just turned 18 and I'm still in high school. And I had gone to the doctor like the week previous to have I guess you need shots when you go to college. I don't remember, but
You do.
I think you need like
Vaccinations.
vaccines or
Yeah.
shots or something.
Yeah.
And let me also say that until 18, I had probably never really been to the doctor more than once for anything. So
You didn't have like a real vigilant parent who did all the things.
Well, what we had was a real poor parent. So, American
Sure.
health care system was great. We couldn't afford healthcare.
Got it.
And my parents didn't have health insurance either, which is crazy to me to think about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I hadn't been to the doctor until I was 18 to go get my shots to go to college, right? And then the week later, they brought in a blood bank to do a blood drive at the high school for people who were finally old enough to get their blood drawn, I guess. And at that point, I was still in the closet and I had never had sex with a man. So I was actually allowed to give blood because I don't know if people know that men who have sex with men are not allowed to give blood because we live in a crazy country. So I had that needle that gave me the vaccinations. I was like, oh, that was fine. That's nothing. I'll go give blood. This will be great. Also, I like to sleep a lot.
I can confirm. I can confirm.
Yes, my husband can also confirm. It's one of my favorite things to do in life is to sleep.
What are your hobbies, Jason? Sleeping
my hobby
and sleeping.
Is sleeping and thinking about sleep, or thinking about the setup of my bedroom to sleep better. But because I'm telling you this, because in high school, I would literally sleep until the last possible second, jump out of bed, get my clothes on, and go to school. I would never eat breakfast. I would just go. And so the morning of the blood drive came around, and it was the period right before lunch. So I'd been awake for 4 hours at this point.
Yeah.
So I go it was held in our auditorium. And they had beds set up on the stage, which I think is funny now that I'm looking back. But I lay in the bed and everyone's getting ready. And the nurse comes over to me and she's like, have you ever given blood before? And I was like, no, I've never given. She goes, oh, well, this is going to be so much fun. And so she pulls out this needle, which was not like the needle that gave me the shot at the doctor, which is what I was expecting. In my mind, it was like a huge knitting needle that they were going to put into my arm. So instantly I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this. And she inserts the needle into my arm. I'm like, okay. And then she turns around and she goes to start another patient. And instantly I'm super sweaty. I'm clammy, and then it starts to get starry and my vision starts to go in. And I'm like, nurse, I think there's something wrong with me. And she doesn't turn around. She goes, no, you're just excited for giving blood the first time. And I go, no, I've been excited before and this ain't it. And she turns around and obviously I picture myself looking like E.T. when he's dying in the movie of that shriveled up white corpse, because the look on her face became instantly oh my God. And there was some sort of food put in my mouth and there were 2 other attendants. And I do think I passed out for a little bit. So they bring me back to life. And I think from that point forward, I'll never give blood again. I have not been able to give blood because, now I have sex with men, but cut to like 10 years later. So between like 18 and 28, I was also poor and didn't have health insurance. So I didn't go to the doctor unless like I had like the urgent care to get like, oh, I need antibiotics for something. But I finally got health insurance and I was excited to finally have a primary care doctor.
Oh yeah.
And my friend was like, you're gay, you should go find like a male gay doctor because you'll feel more comfortable. And I know this great guy, let's go see him. So I look him up on the internet and I make an appointment and I come to find out that he's a former cult model. I don't know if you know what cult is. It was like a 1970s and 80s like porn magazine where they were like hunky men, like
Oh.
big men with like chest hair and like they
Like
were
bears?
cult models. Not like bears,
No.
like firemen,
Like oh
raw.
yes, like okay, got it. And
Yeah.
it's sorry,
Chippendales.
a cult like CULT or did you say COLT?
Cult like the horse, like
the horse.
COLT.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, so he's a former model of Colt
To
magazine.
imply hung like a horse, perhaps.
Yes,
Although
Yes.
Colt is like a baby horse, isn't it? And
it is. Actually, it is a baby horse. This is confusing.
hung like
Yeah,
a baby horse.
Hung like a, which is still pretty
Which
big.
I was going to say
compared-
could be pretty big.
Yeah.
Could be. I've
But
not looked
the odd thing
lately.
is when you could Google my doctor, you could Google and find my doctor naked. So like I
Oh.
saw my doctor naked before I even went into the appointment.
Okay.
Welcome to being gay.
Yeah.
So anyway, I finally make my appointment to go to the primary care doctor for the first time. And they told me I had to be fasting, right? Because they were going to do blood work. And instantly in my head, I'm like, blood work, like, are they going to take the blood like they did the blood bank? Like, I'm a little anxious about it. And I get in there for the appointment and like, he does all of the questions and we've talked and he's like, touched my balls and made me cough. And like, I don't know if I had a prostate exam. I might have, it doesn't matter. But the time had come for them to draw my blood. So he draws my blood, takes however much he needs to take. And then we talk a little bit and he goes, oh, I need a urine sample. Can you go get me a urine sample? And I was like, sure. And he hands me the cup and I have to walk out the door. And then it's like the next door over is the bathroom. And so I stand up and I feel a little weird, but not too weird. And I get out and I open the door to the bathroom and like instantly, like that same clammy feeling, the world shrinking in on me. And I must have like hit the wall or something because the doctor heard me from the other room and I completely pass out, like out. And I wake up and there's this huge, gorgeous cult model just holding me on the ground.
Oh.
And all I can say is like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But I will tell you, if you ever want your doctor's office to remember who you are, pass out.
Yeah.
Because like every time I went in there afterwards, it was like, do you need to lay down? Do you need some food? Do you need something? Before they even took my blood. So that was the second time that happened. And also I hadn't eaten at that point.
Because you do you always do a fasting blood test, like you know what I mean? It's always fasting. Yeah.
Exactly. So now let's cut to a couple weeks ago, because I'm in the age where you need to have a colonoscopy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I went in for my first colonoscopy and I was a little anxious. Bradley can attest to this because they were going to put an IV in my arm.
Yes.
I've never had an IV in my arm. Like that just right there, I was like, oh, and then they were going to put me under and I've never been under anesthesia, nothing like that.
That's major.
Right. There was a little anxiety. And of course, you can't eat before a colonoscopy.
Correct.
Not for days.
They
Not
flush
for
your
like
body
24
of
hours.
everything.
Yeah.
So I get there and I'm doing fine. And they take me back to the prepping area. And I get undressed and I get my little hospital gown. I'm laying in the bed. And the lady who's there is attending me is super sweet. She's young, gorgeous. And I expressed to her, I've never been under anesthesia before. I've never had an IV before, and I have passed out before.
These are good things to tell.
You should say, you got to tell them these things. Yeah.
So I'm feeling really like not that anxious, actually. I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. And so she gets the IV ready and she's sitting next to me. I'm laying in the bed and I've told her, I have passed out before, but it hasn't happened in like 15 years. She goes, okay, well, I'm just gonna talk you through the IV as I'm doing it. And then if you don't want to look at me, you don't have to look at me. And I'm like, fine. And so she's prepping the IV and she's doing the whole bit of putting the needle. She put it in my hand.
Yeah.
And while she's doing it to distract me, she goes, so what do you do for a living? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm a medical esthetician. I work at a dermatologist's office. She goes, oh my God, I need to find an esthetician. And I was like, you should come see me. I was like, if you have insurance, we also have treatments that are covered by insurance. So we're having this conversation, right? And then I look over and the IV is in my hand and I didn't feel a thing. I didn't think about it, whatever. And we're sitting there for a couple minutes chatting. And then she goes, oh, well, let me go get my phone. I want to get the number of where you work. And she stands up to leave the area and she pulls the little curtain closed. And as she does that, wet and clammy, the world's closing in on me. And this had been like 4 minutes. I'm like, what happened? And I don't know if it's because they were like flushing my body full of liquids at this point. I don't know. So then I screamed like, hey, I think I'm going to pass out. And she opens the curtain. And again, I must have looked like dying ET because the look on her face was very traumatized. And she calls 2 other nurses over. Like they have smelling salts under my nose. I'm in a bed that they lean like this direction where my head's
to get the
down
blood
here.
to your head.
Yeah.
I love, but at least you were already laying down.
Yeah.
Totally. But the weirdest feeling is when you're laying down and you're going to pass out because like, what do you do?
Where are you going to go?
You just lay there and pass out.
It's very strange. And so they got me to come to, and I completed my colonoscopy fine. But let me tell you, in reference to giving blood or having an IV, it's not excitement because I've been excited before, and that ain't it.
That ain't it.
No,
That ain't
you
it.
are a delicate flower. You are a
I
Tennessee Williams heroine from like the
Yes.
Vapors.
He's a
Yeah.
baby.
Like,
He's a
I mean,
baby.
I don't think I've
I-
heard the phrase smelling salts ever, except
I
in
feel like
literature.
I feel like a water lily on a Chinese lagoon.
Exactly. That was delightful. You know, I don't, you're delicate. That's all. That's what I've come away with.
I am. And I like to pretend that like, if anything like catastrophic were to happen to me, that I would be like the perfect patient because I'm really good in emergencies, but I don't know if I'd be really good. I don't know.
Well, you'd
I'm
be really
great.
quiet because you'd be passed out.
That's how, yeah. I'd be a perfect patient.
Yeah,
You'd be
you'd
out.
be bitching. Shall we segue into Bradley's story?
We shall.
I'm very excited to hear this. It is called Dissection and Hallucinations.
So I have 2 quick stories. One is, well, I've almost died twice in the last 15 years.
It's been an exciting marriage. We should
Exactly.
yeah.
Truly.
So Jason and I had only been together like a year and a half, and I woke up one day and I had a headache. But I was a professional dancer. I was always injured, always hurting. So it didn't really bother me. I went to work. The headache got worse all day. I worked at a law firm. And so I was walking to court. And each time I stepped, my heels strike, hitting the ground. Now my back was hurting. So I had this terrible headache and my back was hurting every time I hit the ground. Came home, had some ice cream, which I love.
As one does.
To comfort myself. And I went to bed. And I couldn't sleep. I was tossing and turning. And I finally thought, I must have thrown my neck or my back out dancing. So I'm going to get out of bed. And you know what a foam roller is? Yeah.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Big things dancers have. I'm like, I'm just going to get on the floor and roll out my back and my neck. So normally when I do that and I lean back on the foam roller, I'm super flexible. So my back just folds right over the foam roller. This time, nothing happened. My back was completely stiff. And that's when I realized I couldn't turn my head or move my neck. I was completely frozen. So I just slid off, somehow managed to get up, get dressed. I walk into the living room where Jason is sleeping and I go, I need to go to the hospital, like right now. He wasn't too enthused, but we get to the hospital and just word to the wise.
It wasn't that I wasn't too enthused. I will say that as soon as someone tells you I need to go to the hospital,
Nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, but you should also listen to them, which for Bradley's second story will be funny because I didn't. But continue, Bradley.
So word to the wise, when you get to the triage at the hospital and they just send you right back, that's not a good sign. I walked in, I said, here's my 3 symptoms, and they like threw a mask on me and sent me back. So I had bacterial meningitis, pretty severe case. and they pumped me full of morphine, which was super awesome because that's basically taking heroin.
Uh-huh. That's the best
24
part.
24 hours a day for 6 days. I was completely cracked out of my mind. And I had no inner monologue because the pain was so intense. I had no thoughts. I was just pain.
Oh.
I don't really remember a lot about that week except two really funny things to me. The first is once I got out of the hospital, I said to Jason, you know, one of my recurring nightmares the whole time was that there was this leprechaun or gremlin sneaking into my room, my hospital room at night and like screwing with me. He goes, that was the nighttime phlebotomist coming in, who was actually very short. But because I was paralyzed basically on my back, I couldn't really see very well. I had to really strain my eyes to see people walking into the room. And all I remember is this little short guy, you know, hopping around and like taking
Doing
my blood,
stuff.
stealing from me
Yeah.
like a leprechaun.
I just also want to say,
Stealing
like,
your blood.
stealing your blood. He was so out of it, like he didn't even realize. Like from the second that they put him in a hospital room, I had them put a cot in the room, and I was there the entire time, like right next to him. But he was so out of it, he didn't even realize that.
It's like I didn't even know you were there, but thank you for being there.
Exactly.
I mean, this is not funny, but that first night I woke up, well, I was in the emergency room for 24 hours and then they put me in intensive care. And that first night in intensive care, I woke up in the middle of the night and I thought, oh, I'm going to die here by myself. If I had just turned my head, which I couldn't do, I would have seen Jason was
Right.
sleeping directly next to me, but I had no idea where anyone was.
Oh, this sounds like so much fun.
It was
Also,
I
a lot.
also,
I
go
like to
ahead.
think that Jason was the leprechaun.
And you
Stealing
should
all
all
his
know that
stuff, I'm
Jason
like,
is very tall.
yeah, I'm not a tiny little.
Maybe
sprite
you
of
were
him.
bending over, like patting his
Yeah.
forehead and like dabbing at him and things, and you were like,
No,
like-
it was this really cute short Latino guy who would come in the middle of the night to take his blood to go be like assessed to see like how things were going. But it would happen at like 2 or 3 in the morning, so I could see how that would be a little weird.
So luckily I did lots of drugs in college and had hallucinated a lot in college because by the end of this week, I was so drugged, I started hallucinating in the hospital room. And I saw 3 really cool things and 1 not so cool thing. So the first thing I saw in my hotel room, my hospital room, I felt like I was living there. So
the Leprechaun Hotel.
Yes.
Every surface in the hospital room was covered with like a glittery lube. Like it looked wet and glittery, which was super pretty. And then there was a giant polar bear to the left of my hospital bed, standing on his hind legs, and he had his hand on my shoulder like he was comforting me, and it was so sweet.
That's
I love
Jason.
that.
That
Jason's the
was
polar
me.
bear.
No, but I was sitting next to him while he was hallucinating this polar bear.
Polar bear.
And
Oh.
he goes, "Oh, there's a polar bear in the room." And I go, "Oh, really?" I was like, can you tell me where he is right now?" And he goes, "I'm holding its hand."
I'm holding his hand. That's right. I was holding his paw.
I like the motion. I'm holding
Yeah.
his hand.
And then in the far corner of the room, it had transformed into like a cobblestone wall and floor. And there was either a fountain or a pizza oven. I can't really remember, but there was a cat dressed up like Puss in Boots, like Renaissance clothes.
Sure.
And he was a cat in a piazza making a pizza. He was making pizza in this little piazza in the
A
corner of
cat
the.
in a piazza making a pizza.
That's what I told Jason. And he
Julia's
was like,
dead. She's died. She's deceased. She can't speak.
So specific. It's so specific.
I thought it was so adorable and it made me so happy to see. The scary thing that I didn't tell Jason at the time, I told him later, was there was like 20 people in the room in old colonial garb, but black and white, like an old-timey movie look, in chairs halfway up the wall, all the way around the perimeter of
That's
the room.
creepy, Bradley.
Just looking down at me. And it
Like you're in some weird like Scarlet Letter court or something.
Or
Yeah.
like a
Like Goody
like
Proctor. Goody Proctor was there,
or like a surgery amphitheater. Do you know what I'm talking
yes,
about?
yes,
There.
totally.
but colonial
But
The
colonial.
with a
Sure.
panda and lube.
No,
Yeah,
and
I
with
know
a
these were different things. And a pizza piazza. I'm listening.
cat.
I just
It's a cat and a polar bear.
that's what polar bear or panda? Polar
It was
bear.
a
Polar
polar
bear.
bear.
Polar bear, a cat in a piazza making a pizza, lube covered glitter everywhere.
This
and
is
then-
a children's book waiting to be written, Bradley.
Yes, it
Yes.
is.
I love it.
fun with bacteria
colonial people in
meningitis.
chairs.
Yeah, it was
What?
not
How do
good.
you get bacterial meningitis?
So part of the reason I was in the hospital so long was they couldn't figure out what bacteria it was that
Oh,
infected me, and it turned out to be something called Mycoplasma pneumoniae, which is what
Sexy.
causes walking pneumonia.
Uh,
So I must have come into contact with someone, shook their hand, wiped my nose, touched my eye. I did think like later, about a week before I got sick, I had gotten gas and I had touched the
the nozzle?
nozzle for the gas.
Oh, you
thing.
didn't get gas, like you didn't have gas.
No,
Oh, it's not
I
that
went and
kind of
got
gas.
gas.
Gas at the gas station.
gasoline.
Walking pneumonia from
Gasoline.
getting gas. God, go.
And I
I'm with
remember
you.
there was something weird on the handle, but this was pre-COVID. This was 2012, so I didn't wash my hands afterwards. I
No,
just
you were like,
wiped
I'm
them
gonna lick
off.
my fingers.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I'm sure I did because you touch your face multiple times a minute. So I'm
Sure.
sure right after that I touched it, and I feel like that's where I got it from.
Mm.
But yeah, so I had a headache for like a year and was exhausted for a year. It took like a
in
full year to
recovery.
recover. Yeah,
Yeah.
after. So it wasn't great. And so then 10 years later, I almost died
Almost to
again.
the day.
Almost to the day. I had a carotid artery dissection in the right side of my neck. So we can speak freely here, correct?
Yes,
Of course,
you can.
say
Tell
all
us
the
a little-
words.
So
Yeah.
I had been having a lot of sex the prior
That-
like week
so-
or two.
Exactly. That
Go ahead.
weekend before was a big weekend for us.
I mean,
Like we attended a sex party where there were many people, and then we also like had gotten. Do you mind that I'm saying this, Bradley?
no, say it all.
We'd,
I have no
we had
secret.
also had some like ketamine sitting in our house,
As one
that-
does.
as one does.
But we had never done it.
We had never done it. It was sitting there, and I was like, well, this is a good weekend. Like, this will help us relax and come down and like get ready for the week. So we both did a little bit of the ketamine. I had never done it before. Had you ever done it before?
No.
Yeah. And it was like a non-thing. It was like, oh, why are people so excited about this? Like, it wasn't exciting.
Yeah.
So that was Sunday. We wake up Monday and continue, Bradley.
Well, I went to the gym and my preferred squat rack was unavailable. And I was very
I'm
upset about
sorry.
this.
I hate it when that happens,
So I did leg press instead, which I never do.
which is not the same.
It is not the same.
Not the
And I was
same.
so angry, I just kept packing plates, as we say, onto the leg press. So I hit like a personal record. Never pressed this much weight before. So it was either from the leg press exertion or being sexually pleasured on a box against a wall with my neck in a weird position 2 nights prior. But I dissected my artery in my neck, which is not a rupture. It's like the inner wall of the artery gets a little tear in it. And oh, by the way, this tear could have also come from 20 years of professionally dancing and
Yeah.
thrashing my head around, tons of chiropractic adjustments. It could have been anything. And blood flows into the tear and like separates the wall of the artery. And there's multiple layers. So it keeps propagating from like my shoulder up to my skull and like shredding the wall
So
internally.
it's slowly pulling everything apart as the blood flows upward towards your head.
Right. Into like into the wall. So it can cause like a massive stroke, can block the entire artery. So if you have a stroke, if it blocks the entire artery, that's 25% of your brain. There's 4 arteries that go to your head. So that's 25% of your brain would stroke, which is super bad.
Not good.
Or it can make tons of little clots that break off and cause a bunch of different strokes in your head. So I woke up in the morning, my neck hurt. That's not uncommon. So of course I'm like stretching my neck and twisting it and trying to crack it, which was absolutely
We both
the wrong thing.
woke up with like kind of colds, like a little sniffly, like, oh, I think I'm getting a cold. So
And I had diarrhea that morning. So these
You're
were
like,
all
neck pain, diarrhea. This could be so many things.
right. It was very confusing. So the whole week, my neck pain keeps getting worse. My sore throat goes away. Still have the diarrhea, and I have this weird, like bulge coming out of my side of my neck, like it was super swollen. And then on Thursday, I think I wake up. I'm getting ready to go. Oh, I had gone to work. I had done all sorts of stuff the whole week. I didn't stop working or doing anything. Could have stroked out by myself in my office at work with nobody there, which would have been probably a great experience as well. I look in the mirror and my
No doubt.
pupils are 2 different sizes. One is like super tiny and the other one's super big. So I'm like, that probably isn't good either. Still, I do nothing about this. It isn't until Saturday morning that I'm like,
Oh
I think
my
I'm gonna go to
God,
urgent care.
Bradley.
I know this is so bad of me, but this is just how I am. So I go to urgent care and I'm like, so I had diarrhea earlier in the week. I kind of have a cold, but I also have this swollen neck and my pupils are two different sizes. And he's like, I have no idea what this constellation of symptoms means.
Means, yeah.
But he leaves the room and he comes back in with another doctor. So word to the wise, if your urgent care doctor leaves and comes back with a second doctor, that's really not great.
It's
That's
bad.
that's bad.
Mhm.
So he says you should go to the emergency room right now. And he gives me a little discharge paper. So I don't go to the emergency room right away. I go home because I'm an idiot. And I get home and Jason's on the couch and I go, I think you need to take me to the emergency room. And he's like, no, I'm not doing that.
I was like, really?
Jason.
I was like, Bradley, you just have like a throat infection. I was like, you're gonna go to the emergency room. They're gonna give you antibiotics. Do I really have to take you? He's like, no, I think these doctors are pretty upset. Like, you should take me. I'm like, okay, like begrudgingly.
Yeah, he did not want to do this. So we drive to the hospital. I walk in. Again, the same thing happens as 10 years prior. I walk into triage and I say, hi, my neck is swollen. It's a lot of pain. And my pupils are two different sizes. And they're like, go straight back. They sent me right back in there and immediately diagnosed basically with this carotid artery dissection.
Never heard of this.
I
You've
would
never
also
heard-
like to say that carotid artery dissections happen a lot to older people, like 65 and above, or people who've had some sort of like traumatic injury happen, like
Mhm.
they've gotten whiplash or they've been in a car accident or like
Makes
something's
sense.
happened to them. And none of these things happened to Bradley.
Or you're like a big drug user. And we don't do drugs. We had done ketamine one time, which just happened to coincide with this exact moment, which of course we told the doctors. I mean, I said everything. I said, I'm a dancer, I'm an athlete.
Yeah, you don't lie. You got to give them all the info.
And so
Okay.
one of the doctors came and then I was like, oh, well, Bradley, we did do that ketamine this weekend. And like instantly his eyes were like, oh, okay. And like we are in the heart of West Hollywood at a hospital in West Hollywood. So I'm sure they get a lot of like gay men with drug problems. We aren't those gay men, but they focused on that.
They were obsessed, particularly this doctor, and he kept quizzing me like, so how much drugs do you do? What did you do this weekend? And I was like, nothing. I went to the gym. I mean, whatever. He, unbeknownst to me, secretly doesn't tell me, he orders a full drug panel, like
Oh my
everything.
God.
Methamphetamine, all this, everything. Of course, it all comes back negative because I don't do any of those things. But then later when I'm discharged from the hospital and I'm going to see my neurosurgeon, they have this app where you can review your medical records. And so I'm
Mhm.
reviewing it all. And it says in there, patient is a habitual drug user.
No.
And I went to my neurosurgeon. I'm like, I want that removed.
Yes.
I want that stricken from the record.
Stricken
It's
from the
Strike this
record.
from the
true.
record.
I did one tiny bump of ketamine 2 weeks ago that had
And now
zero
I'm a
effect.
habitual drug user.
Yes, habitual drug user.
If only your preferred squat rack had been available, this
I
might have been
know,
avoided.
I know.
My husband calls
know.
me his preferred squat rack.
Oh.
No, he doesn't. I've just never heard preferred squat rack, and I'm really fixating on it.
That's going to be my next tattoo across my back.
Yay!
Squat rack.
It should be.
Is it strange that after hearing both of your stories, Bradley almost died twice and Jason merely fainted thrice, that I think Jason is the more delicate flower still after all of this?
100%.
I mean, it's true.
Like Bradley's like, he's Gloria Estefan coming out of the dark. He's like emerged, he's being judged by all of the
Doctors.
the Hawthorne, the Goody Proctors. They're all like
Oh,
holding
yeah.
up a scarlet letter at him. And he's like, fuck you, I'm going to live. And Jason's like, I need a snack before you take my blood, please. If listeners would like to follow you anywhere on social media, or if either of you have businesses that you'd like to promote for listeners in the areas where you live, this is
Do
the
that
time
now.
to say those things, and maybe you'll get hooked up.
I mean, if you want to be my friend, you can follow me on Insta at the Jason Moyer. But if you want to know more about what I do for work, you can follow Jason Moyer Skincare.
That sounds great. And you are located in?
We're in Los Angeles, but I work in Brentwood, California.
Yeah. So if you would like
Okay.
to see Jason for face stuff, you
for
got to live
face
there.
stuff.
Yeah.
Or visit.
Or visit, or just say
Just
hi.
just show up at his house.
But don't
Yeah.
stalk him because that's creepy and highly
Totally.
illegal. Yeah.
Right.
Bradley.
You can want to follow me on Instagram at BCM, as in Bradley Cat Mary 311, because that's my favorite band. So it's BCM 311. You can go on
Yeah.
YouTube and look at old videos of me dancing from 15 years ago that are
Which are
terrible
fabulous.
quality. They are amazing, but they're
fabulous.
terrible quality.
Well,
That's
they're
method
vintage.
dance. Yes,
Method dance.
contemporary
Vintage.
dance.
Method
Vintage.
contemporary dance. Say
That's
that
right.
again.
Method contemporary dance.
Excellent. All right, y'all. This was wonderful.
We love
yeah.
you.
I'm glad our
me
trauma
too.
could help fuel
I
Yes.
this
learned a
podcast.
lot. I learned a lot.
I did too. And you know, somebody who might not be taking something or other not seriously might take it seriously after hearing your stories. Not yours, Jason, but yours, Bradley.
That is my one parting thought is like, if you feel off, just go to the hospital.
Just go. Don't ask Jason to take you.
Don't
Well, I
ask.
was going to
Yeah,
say
just
my
take
parting
yourself.
my parting advice would be if someone tells you to take them to the hospital, just take them to the hospital.
Right.